And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, February 28th. We have a lot to cover on the show today, like we normally do, but before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So, we're going to start off the show. We are going to talk about Aaron Rodgers once again. So I know we touched upon Matthew Stafford and some of the rumors surrounding him, more rumors, but I wanted to get into the Aaron Rodgers side of things. And the rumors that, if Matthew Stafford does indeed get traded, he would like to go play with the Rams and bring along Davante Adams. But I also wanted to get into that report as well that he supposedly reached out to the Giants to see if they were interested in signing him, because the Giants, of course, are another team that is looking for a quarterback. We talked about them yesterday and how, they want to acquire Matthew Stafford, supposedly. It's a main priority, according to what we're hearing out of the Combine. So we'll get into that. In the second part of the show, I wanted to talk about what Nestor Cortez Jr. had to say about the Dodgers and how he felt that the Yankees, even though they lost the World Series, were still the better team. So we'll get into exactly what he said. He's now a member of the Milwaukee Brewers, but I wanted to talk about that as well. Then in the third part of the show, we will get into talking about Kevin Durant. Whether or not the Suns may trade him after this season. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about in the fourth part of the show, Trey Smith of the Chiefs. He will likely be franchise tagged. So we'll take a look at who will likely be franchise tagged amongst the other teams as well in the NFL. And then the final part of the show, we have now moved on from the NFC East. We will continue our season overviews, and today we will be talking about the New Orleans Saints and what they have to do. And that's a team that needs a lot of work. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Aaron Rodgers and more speculation on where he could possibly end up and where maybe he would like to play. So there are reports out there that he would like to go to the Rams. And if this does happen, he, of course, would want to bring along Davante Adams. Now, again, I'm going to say it for the millionth time. Matthew Stafford will be the starting quarterback for the Rams in 2025. Now, if that doesn't happen, you could clip what I just said and you could send it to Freezing Cold Takes. You could do whatever you want with it. But I still believe that that is what's going to end up happening. So that will be something that, leads to Rodgers having to look elsewhere. But I did say that once Stafford and the Rams figure out what they're going to do, then all the other dominoes will fall. That's how I feel. But I could be wrong on that. Now, going to the Rams would make sense for Rodgers because this is a team that came a couple of plays away, or were a couple of plays away from making it to the NFC Championship game. And had they got to the championship game, I think they would have went to the Super Bowl. Maybe they would have won it. That's just me. But that's how I feel. And you got Puka Nacua, who is turning into one of the best receivers in the league. You have Kyron Williams, who is a solid running back, a young running back. You got one of the best head coaches in the NFL in Sean McVay. And you got this young defense that really showed improvement as the year went along. And they won their division. So it makes sense Rodgers wants to go there. And to bring along Davante Adams, hey, you pair Davante Adams up with Puka Nacua, sign me up for that. That would be awesome to see. Now, I don't know how that would work financially because Davante Adams does, make a lot of money. But if they were able to bring aboard Davante Adams, with Puka Nacua, that would be pretty cool. But it just doesn't make sense from the Rams' perspective. Now, I understand it comes down to money, and Stafford wants to make the big bucks when comparing him to the other quarterbacks that are getting paid about $50 million. Now, some of the quarterbacks that are making $50 million don't deserve it. They haven't shown us anything. Matthew Stafford, he's got a Super Bowl ring. And again, the Rams, they came very close to getting to the championship game last year with him. So I get it. The problem with Stafford is his age. Like, if Matthew Stafford, if this was, 30-year-old Matthew Stafford, then I get it. But he's 37. He's nearing the end. So it's just a very strange situation what's going on there. But, when you going back to Rodgers, though, his overall numbers were not bad. But if you paid close attention to every Jet game, if you watched every Jet game, you know that numbers don't tell the whole story. There were points during the year where he was not good. And part of it was because he was injured. And he's also coming back from a major injury. And now he's a 40-year-old quarterback. But I think he did show you something towards the end of the year that he could still play. And it does have to be the right situation. This would be one of those situations. This would be a team that is looking to win a championship again. And it would make sense for him. But, going from Matthew Stafford to an even older quarterback, this is talking now from the Rams' perspective, doesn't really make sense. But who else are you going to bring in? Sam Darnold? Justin Fields? They supposedly are comfortable with starting Jimmy Garoppolo, which I think would be a mistake. That would be a downgrade. And I don't like that it seems like I'm bashing Jimmy Garoppolo, but it would be a downgrade. Garoppolo was not good with the Raiders. And I know it's different now. I mean, he's, with the Rams, obviously. But I don't know. I just feel it. And the other thing, too, is he's not durable. He gets hurt. So then, you go into next season with Jimmy Garoppolo, and he gets hurt. Then what? The other thing I'll say, too, is the offensive line for the Rams at times, was not great because it was hurt. If they were to bring in Aaron Rodgers, you need to make sure that offensive line can hold up. Because if not, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. That's the thing with these older quarterbacks. You need to be able to protect them. If not, it's really going to not work. It's not going to work out. Now, the other report out there is that Rodgers supposedly reached out to the Giants to see if they were interested. Now, does that make sense? I guess from the Giants' perspective, if you want to draft a young quarterback in the later rounds and you want to take a chance on Rodgers and try to compete, because this regime is desperate for wins, because if they don't get any wins, they're not going anywhere. They're going to end up being let go after the season. So if you go down that road and you brought in Rodgers, make sure you draft a young quarterback one way or another in this upcoming draft. Have them sit behind Rodgers, learn from him, and hope that, a year that Rodgers plays for the Giants, he's able to teach that young quarterback, and then you could start him the following season. Ideally, that's what you would want, but who knows how it would turn out when it comes to with the Giants. And who knows? I mean, Rodgers could get hurt, something like that. But there was that report, but then there was another report. Now, Mike Florio reported that, but then there was a report, I think by USA Today, that was basically saying he didn't reach out to the Giants. So who knows? I'm just talking about, would it make sense? But if the Giants are trying to win now, you bring in Aaron Rodgers, I guess, And then you take the best player available at 3. You take a young quarterback with one of your other picks. You have them sit behind Rodgers. I mean, let's say they draft Travis Hunter. They draft Tetero McMillan. They draft another playmaker. Maybe Devontae Adams comes on over. You got Tyrone Tracy coming out of the backfield. Maybe you take another running back in the later rounds. Andrew Thomas comes back next year. So you hope the offensive line is able to hold up. Because it was doing well in the beginning. It's just once Andrew Thomas got hurt, then everything fell apart. And then you have some good players on defense. So with Aaron Rodgers, you could probably win more than 3 games, but where's that going to get you? Because look at the division. The division's going to be better. And, from Rodgers' perspective, I think the Giants could make sense just because he loves the New Jersey area. Talked about how he loved it. And you wouldn't have to move. You just go right across the hall. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But the Giants, it seems like they're focused on trying to get Matthew Stafford. And I think, look, I'm a Rodgers fan, but I think if you're trying to get a quarterback, I think Matthew Stafford would definitely be the better option. But that's just me. But let me know what you guys think about the Rodgers stuff. Where do you think he ends up playing? I mean, yeah, the Rams make sense if Stafford gets traded for him because, he's from California. He can go out there and, you bring Devontae Adams. Got a good supporting cast, a really good head coach. Yeah, but I don't know. For the Rams, that would be kind of strange. You go from Matthew Stafford to Aaron Rodgers. But again, this is all speculation. But let me know what you guys think about all this. Where do you think Rodgers could end up? I really don't want to see him end up in Tennessee, but, or maybe the Colts. Listen, the Colts have been notorious for bringing in veteran quarterbacks, and supposedly they want to bring in competition for Anthony Richardson. Aaron Rodgers could be that competition, and that's a weak division. So we are going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we will talk about what Nestor Cortez Jr. said recently, saying that the Yankees, even with the Dodgers winning the World Series, were still the better team. So we will get into that conversation when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.